Alright there guys, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be talking about one of my favourite games of all time. A game that probably no one else would put on their favourite games of all time list, but I do. And that game is the Simpsons game. This game, in my opinion, is an underappreciated masterpiece. I love this game, and it is still the most recent console Simpsons game that has been released, and it came out 15 years ago. There hasn't been another Simpsons game on console since then. So the story of the Simpsons game is about the family realizing they're actually in a video game, and they need to save themselves from video game purgatory. And there's so many different references and parodies to other things within this game. You've got the Land of Chocolate level, which references the episode of The Simpsons where those two German businessmen bought the nuclear power plant from Mr. Burns. And then Homer goes through the Land of Chocolate to eat a white chocolate bunny. You've got Bart's parodying Batman with Bartman Begins. You've got the powers of Bart's slingshot and being able to use a cape to glide. Lisa, she can use her saxophone to stun enemies, and due to her being a Buddhist, she can actually use the powers of Buddha to pick up large objects with her mind. Marge is able to recruit people to her angry mob in order to ban Grand Theft Scratchy, a parody of GTA. Homer's main ability is Homer Ball, where he turns into a giant ball that can blast himself all around the place. The first 5 levels of the game basically get you used to the characters and their abilities. You play as Homer twice. No, you play as Homer 3 times. You play as Bart 3 times. You play as Lisa twice, and you play as Marge once. And really, the reason why I love this game is I just love the level design. Like, the levels are fun, especially toward later on in the game. And the ideas, I mean, you go to a museum to stop Jimbo, Dolph and Kearney from stealing. You have an eating contest. You spend a level being an environmental activist. The only way I'd ever want to be one of them is through that level, nothing else. You rally the town to ban a video game. Then when you get through the first 5 levels, you go to that's when the game really starts to pick up. As the aliens, because it wouldn't be a Simpsons game, just like it wouldn't be a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode without the aliens making an appearance. And for the most part, the aliens are the main villains of the game, just like they were in The Simpsons Hit and Run. Which, in my opinion, The Simpsons game isn't looked upon as fondly as it should be, in my opinion, because of how successful The Simpsons Hit and Run was. And the fact that the hub world of the Simpsons game in Springfield, you can't really do much. But one thing in the hub world of the Simpsons game compared to Hit and Run that's better is you can beat the crap out of whoever you want, and you won't get punished for it. Whereas in Hit and Run, you get punished for doing almost anything. With your hit and run meter always increasing if you hit something or you hit someone. The Simpsons game does give you a little bit of variety in the hub world though. After you've beaten the first 5 levels of the game, the hub world changes slightly. It's still obviously Springfield, but it changes to where most of the there's a lot less people around, and the sky has turned all dark, and there are aliens everywhere, and you can actually die in the hub world. So after that, you go to the 6th level of the game, enter the Cheatrix, where Bart and Lisa need to save Professor Frink from Donkey Kong. Yes, that is exactly what happens. It sounds just like it says it does. It sounds exactly how it sounds. Which includes Bart getting a brand new grapple upgrade in reference to the back grapple. You fight against NFL footballers from Madden and Ryu from Street Fighter. You save Professor Frink, then you have 3 levels that open up to you all at once. You have to defeat the dolphins in Day of the Dolphin, referencing the Treehouse of Horror episode where the dolphins actually turn evil. You got to defeat Lard Lad, the big donut mascot, and you've got to save Cletus from the aliens. Then you get to the 10th level of the game, where you meet Will Wright, creator of SimCity and The Sims. Don't forget his biggest failure, Sim Sandwich. Where Homer and Bart have to stop 8-bit retro versions of the Simpsons family from being destroyed. Then 4 levels open all at once, and this is where the game gets really good. There's 1 level in these 4 that is pretty bad, but the other 3, 1 is good, 1 is bad, and 2 are really damn good. Next up you have NeverQuest. NeverQuest is basically a parody of Lord of the Rings, where you have to defeat a 2-headed dragon that is Patty and Selma, which is quite a pretty good way of coming up with a 2-headed dragon idea. Make it Homer's worst family enemy. And what these 4 levels that you go through do is you have to collect a key card at the end of them in order to open the gate to the mansion of the creator. They don't tell you who the name of the creator, but if you know who created The Simpsons, Matt Groening, that's who they're on about. Then you go to Grand Theft Scratchy. Of course, it was referenced and talked about at the start of the game. And then you actually have Marge and Lisa go into the level. It's not very good. What you do is you basically recruit dogs to unpimp houses and make them child friendly, and your main enemies are cats and mice. You know, Itchy and Scratchy. It's Grand Theft Scratchy. It's a good way to give you a feel for what Grand Theft Scratchy would be like if it was turned into an actual game, instead of just a made-up game existing in the Simpsons universe. I'm surprised the show never bothered to make up a Grand Theft Scratchy game. They came up with Bone Storm. Why not Grand Theft Scratchy? Once you've defeated Poochie, remember him, Poochie the rocking dog? Once you've defeated him, you go to my 2 favourite levels in the game. Level 13, Medal of Homer, which is a parody of Medal of Honor, where Homer and Bart travel back in time to World War II in order to stop the Germans, like in the actual war, until Mr. Burns betrays the American army, and the paintings that they found in the French museum are then stolen by Mr. Burns, and you have to take him down. And the level is split up into 3 different sections. Section 1 is in France, where you have to collect 24 white flags. Yes, I am being serious. You're in France and you're collecting white flags. You get the joke they're making there. That the French are a bunch of cheese-eating surrender monkeys. What's even funnier is good old Abe Simpson actually calls the French cheese-eating surrender monkeys in the level. He actually calls them that. Then the second part of the level, you go to Africa, where Homer and Bart need to destroy tanks and mounted guns so Mr. Burns and Abe can get their convoy back to base. And then the third and final section is on a big ship in the middle of the ocean, where Abe is giving cover fire from a fighter plane, whilst Homer and Bart are at the bottom of the ship and they need to make their way up. And the only enemy you actually have to fight is Smithers in a sailor outfit, and he takes a lot more damage to take down than most regular enemies did. And Mr. Burns is so weak, he doesn't even have a health bar. You hit him once and he's down. But that's actually my favourite part of the level, the end, the ship. Because it's just a grand adventure. You're going from the very bottom of the ship all the way to the top to take down Mr. Burns, who is at the very top of the ship. It's just an enjoyable level. And something that I personally really like about the level, and this might literally just be a me thing, is if you use Homer's helium ability, where he can turn into a helium balloon and propel himself very high into the air, I do that, make sure to go off the edge of the ship, so if I fell, I would land in the water, and if you land in water in the game, you die and then just respawn. And you die, respawn, and you've just lost a little bit of health. That's how falling into pits and death pits works in this game. But if you're high enough in the air as Homer and you start falling, Homer does this really funny animation where he's flailing his arms and legs about like, someone grab hold of me, I'm gonna die. It's really funny. Then we come to my favourite level in the game, Big Super Happy Fun Fun Game, Chapter 14, where it's basically a level entirely inspired by Japanese culture. And with The Simpsons being an animated show, making this an animated game, you can't have a level about Japan without throwing anime references in there. So Homer and Lisa have to help Mr. Sparkle, remember him, they have to save him and the area that they've gone to from Milhouse, who is posing as the main villain of Katamari Damacy, where you have to go through 3 different layers, 1 fire, 1 ice, 1 sky, to collect these orbs that will put Mr. Sparkle back to full power, and he can clean up. He can clean up the area you are in. And the main enemies of each level are Comic Book Guy as a sumo wrestler. Depending on which area you're in, depends on which colour the sumo will be. If you're in the lava layer, he'll be red, the ice layer, he'll be blue, and the sky layer, he'll be pink. And you have to take down a boss battle right at the end of each of the 3 levels. And you take down Jimbo in fire, Ralph in ice, and then Sherry and Terry in sky. And probably the best part about it is all 3 boss fights are styled as a Pokemon battle. Homer and Lisa have 3 attacks each, one that does a little bit of damage, one that doesn't affect the enemy at all, and one that does a lot of damage. The first and third fights are exactly the same attacks do the work, and the second fight, the other attack that was made the first and third fights where the enemy is immune to an attack, that attack will then work perfectly on the second enemy. And when you defeat an enemy, you are able to do your summons. Homer summons a flying pig, and Lisa summons Lingo. If you remember, he is a robot she created in the show in one episode. Then, when you've collected the 4 keycards, you head off to Matt Groening's mansion to take down his lawyers, and then take him down. And a very clever puzzle is made for you to get into the mansion by 8 panels on the floor just outside his door, and you just have to copy the pattern which plays the Simpsons theme song. Once you make it in, Homer and Bart have to take down Matt Groening, and Matt Groening sends his minions of Bender and Dr. Zoidberg from Futurama at you. After you defeat Matt Groening, Lisa talks about philosophy and how what you just did created a philosophical consequence, and Homer says, "You make a provocative point, Lisa, and furthermore, kick him!" And then Homer and Bart start kicking the crap out of Matt Groening. The family complain at Matt for milking the Simpsons with so much merchandise, and then he proceeds to press the video game self-destruct button, leaves in a helicopter, and all the 4 levels you've just played are collapsing in on them. Well, 5 really, including the one you've just done. The 5 levels you've just played collapse in on themselves. There's only one more thing to do, as everybody you've met along the last 4 levels, good and bad, come with you back to Springfield. Lisa uses her Buddha powers to build a stairway to heaven in order to take down the real final boss of the game, God himself. So you have 3 boss battles to take down. You have William Shakespeare at the very start of the level. Then you have to take down Benjamin Franklin near the end of the level, and then God himself at the end of the level. And the fun thing about this level is Heaven is a great level. It's a great final level because all the regular enemies aren't new enemies. They're all enemies you fought throughout the game. You've got loggers from Lisa the Tree Hugger, the aliens from the Yokel Snatchers level. So you've got all sorts of different enemies from previous levels, because whenever you take down an enemy, they die and then a halo, like an angel has, a halo will appear and go towards the sky, and then you fight all these enemies again in heaven. So the final boss of the game, in God, is where you have to play Dance Dance Revolution against him. Where you have to destroy his Nintendo his Sony PlayStation, and his Microsoft Exodus box. Of course, you can't use the real names for copyright reasons, so they decided to still put the consoles into the boss battle, but change the name of them, which I think was very clever. After defeating God, the Simpsons force God to turn everything back to how it was and get rid of the alien invasion, and that's what he does. Only to find out that God was playing as the Simpsons the entire time, but then Ralph was playing as them. But you fought Ralph during the game, so it's like a whole bunch of Inception. But I love the Simpsons game because of its level design. The fact that every single cutscene in the game is animated by the same people who animate the show, so it's the best looking Simpsons game of them all. And I feel like the reason why this game isn't looked at as fondly as it should be is due to the fact of the Simpsons Hit and Run being released before it and being so much more successful. I mean, last month I was watching quite a lot of Simpsons game speedruns from a YouTuber and Twitch streamer called Liquid Wi-Fi, and he currently has the world record speedrun for the Simpsons game New Game Plus Any Percent at 51 minutes and 49 seconds. He beat the entire game in under an hour. It's pretty damn incredible. And one more thing I want to talk about that's extremely unique to the Simpsons game is the fact that every single version of the Simpsons game, the PS2, the PSP, the PS3, the Xbox 360, the Nintendo Wii, and the Nintendo DS versions of the game, the 6 different versions of the game, every single version of the game has different box art. No 2 versions of the game have the same box art. Obviously, all 360 versions have the same box art, but all different console versions of the game have different box art. And I think that's a really unique thing. But yeah, that's my video on the Simpsons game. One of my favourite games of all time. My 10th to be exact. If you guys have enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and until next time, catch you later.